My name is Charley Golf, and I work as a claims adjuster for Universal Guidance Support. You've probably never heard of us. We handle claims for numerous small independent insurance firms. I've been with the company for 22 years, never once considering a change. The work is monotonous, but it suits me perfectly. That's not to say I'm unhappy, just unmotivated. My personal life mirrors my career in many ways. I've been married for 23 years to Viola, and we have twin daughters, Rosie and Dina, both in their final year at Albright College. We own a 4-bedroom house, weighed down by a hefty mortgage, mostly taken out to fund the girls' education. Viola never worked, and never wanted to. Our income has been enough to get by, but never more than that over the years. I managed to save about $40,000, but my marriage has always been lukewarm. I had higher hopes, expected more. I tried different ways to bring back the spark, but nothing ever worked. Today, I finally understood why. It had been an ordinary, uneventful day at the office, like so many others. Right after lunch, my phone rang. Viola's number. She rarely called during work hours, so I was immediately curious. "Hello," a voice I hadn't heard in decades greeted me with unexpected enthusiasm. "Charley, my old buddy, how have you been?" I hesitated. "Who is this, and why are you calling from my wife's phone?" "It's John Bell. You remember me, don't you? The guy you stole Viola from. That must have been, 25 years ago." I remembered him. But I hadn't stolen anyone. He had left town, and after he was gone, Viola and I got together. I never saw it as taking someone else's girl. "Yeah, I remember," I said cautiously. "But that doesn't explain why you're using her phone." "Well, Charley, here's the thing. I was in town on business, so I gave her a call. We met for lunch, and, well, one thing led to another. We ended up back at my hotel." My grip on the phone tightened. "What are you saying?" "Relax," John chuckled. "She's just taking a shower before heading home. Didn't want you to suspect anything." My pulse pounded in my ears. "You want to hear something funny?" He paused, then a mechanical hum filled the silence. "Recognize that sound?" I strained to listen. It was faint, but familiar. "That's a hairdryer," he continued, clearly amused. "She actually brought a mini hairdryer with her. Can you believe that? Now tell me, Charley, what does that say to you?" I was done. "Why are you really calling?" I asked flatly. "I just wanted to thank you for taking her off my hands," he said smugly. "How does it feel, knowing I'm still the better man? You may have the ring, but her heart is still mine. Otherwise, she wouldn't be here." I ended the call. Locked the number. I didn't need to hear more. That conversation answered every question that had been lingering in my mind for years. Within the hour, I'd quit my job, requested my final paycheck be sent to my brother in Huntsville, and emptied all of our bank accounts. I ignored the credit card bills and the mortgage. I even had my first-class mail redirected to my brother's address. By the time Viola returned home, my car was fully packed. She stepped inside, arms full of grocery bags, and immediately noticed. "Charley, what's going on? Why is your car loaded up?" I sat at the kitchen table, calmly sipping my coffee as she set the bags on the counter. "Oh, so you noticed," I murmured. She began unpacking the groceries but quickly stopped, turning to face me. "Are you going to tell me what's happening?" She crossed her arms, waiting for an explanation. I placed my cup down, walked over, and reached into her purse. My fingers found what I was looking for, a bright red metallic mini hairdryer. Holding it up, I simply waited. She stood motionless for a moment, then let out a deep sigh and silently left the room. 5 minutes later, I was on the highway, heading for Huntsville. My brother Bill and his wife Barbara welcomed me warmly. It had been years since we last spent time together. Bill and I caught up while Barbara busied herself preparing dinner. I recounted the entire situation without any emotional outbursts, which seemed to impress him. He expected me to be more shaken, but I felt oddly at peace after the long drive. Exhaustion hit me hard, and I turned in for the night right after supper. By the time I got up the next morning, Bill was already gone, off to his job at the Toyota plant just north of the city. Barbara offered to drive me around and help me settle in. There wasn't much to take care of. I updated my driver's license and arranged for my mail to be forwarded to Bob's house later. Barbara followed me to CarMax, where I handed over the keys to my Honda CR-V and within 20 minutes, walked away with a check. By the time Bill finished work, we were heading straight to the Rocket City RV Center. Barbara and I had lunch at Olive Garden before I spent hours browsing different options. I wasn't picky, but I still wanted something practical. Eventually, I settled on a small Ryalta. The dealership had it ready the next day, and a sales rep took me through the basics of operating and maintaining my new home on wheels. I kept it as it was, except for having 4 brand new tires installed. Barbara was thrilled to help me stock up on essentials, and Bob, ever the handyman, put together a compact toolkit from the overflowing supplies in his garage. The following morning, I was on the road again, no plan. No specific destination. Wherever I ended up would simply be where I was meant to be. That didn't mean I wasn't prepared. I was spontaneous, but not reckless. I avoided heavy traffic, kept clear of big cities during rush hour, and steered away from bad weather. Trouble wasn't something I looked for, and I certainly wasn't going to invite it the first 2 weeks. I did nothing but drive. I relied on a list of 15 well-known free parking locations for nomads, planning to try them all by year's end. The problem? Gas wasn't cheap, and at the pace I was going, I'd burn through my cash reserves fast. I wasn't actively looking for work, but I realized I'd need to find something along the way. By mid-July, I found myself in South Dakota. It wasn't intentional, I just drifted there. I'd always heard about Sturgis, though motorcycles never interested me, so it had never been on my radar. The third place I stopped at made an offer I couldn't refuse: free parking, free meals, and some off-the-books cash in exchange for staying the full month. I had 0 bartending experience, so I ended up working in the kitchen instead. Running the Clipper was easy enough, and I even picked up a few basic kitchen skills. It was fast-paced, sometimes chaotic, but exciting in a way I hadn't expected. The rally itself lasted 10 days, but the place was buzzing with activity both before and after the main event. I worked long shifts, barely stopping to breathe, but I thrived on the energy. By the time the month ended, I felt confident enough to handle most fast food cooking. Though I wouldn't call myself a chef, I stuck around for another week, then moved on. 2 weeks later, I found work at a camping resort near Cody, Wyoming. The deal was the same: free parking, free meals, and some cash under the table. It wasn't glamorous, but I had no complaints. I stayed for 3 months, long enough to gain more experience and save up some travel money. As the weather turned colder, I decided to move on, promising to return in the spring. They were happy with my work, and I was grateful for the opportunity. The last road sign I saw mentioned the Shasho National Forest, but I had no idea where I actually was. The sky was clear, the day was peaceful, and I didn't care. I spotted what looked like a designated parking area and pulled over. For the moment, that was enough. It was a peaceful spot, far from the constant hum of traffic. Since I had no real schedule, I figured I'd stay for a few days, at least until someone told me to move along. That was when I met Micah. He wandered up to my camper while I was watching the sunset. Rough around the edges for an older man, he didn't look like a vagrant, just someone who had seen his share of miles. "The coffee smells good," he said. "Got an extra cup to spare?" I poured him one and pulled a folding chair from under the Ryalta. "My name's Charley. Like the king." "What's yours?" "Micah." "Not like any king I know," he said with a smirk. We made small talk about the weather and the view. It was pleasant enough, but his short answers were starting to wear on me. "Where's your car, Micah?" "Don't have one." I was walking. "From where?" "From home." His vagueness was getting frustrating. "Is it close?" "No, not really. I've been walking for 2 days." "You hungry?" "Yeah, I could eat. Got anything handy?" "Don't want to put you out." One thing led to another, and before I knew it, I was making him dinner. He spent the night in the RV, and by morning, we were sharing a slow breakfast, still chatting. "Micah, does anyone know you're out here?" "Oh yeah, my granddaughter, Sophie, she knows." "Isn't she worried?" "Why would she be? I always come home." I didn't know what to say to that. Micah sighed and stretched. "You know, Charley, maybe I should go home. I could use a change of underwear and some new socks. A bath and a shave wouldn't hurt either, old man," I joked. 30 minutes later, we were on the road. The only sign I saw along the way said Lander, but I still had no real idea where I was. Probably should have bought a GPS before I left. Maybe a Christmas present to myself. After what felt like an endless series of directions from Micah, we pulled up in front of a picturesque cabin. Half stone, half logs, It looked like something from a postcard. A woman stood on the porch, arms crossed, watching us like she had been expecting us. "Thanks for bringing Zubba home," she said. I was about to go get him myself. She was tall, with bronze skin and dark hair. Her loose jeans and flannel didn't give much away, but her confidence was striking. "Zaba?" I asked. "That's what I call him," she said. "You knew where he was. Of course, I always know where he is. I sewed a tracker into his jacket. Battery lasts a week, but I usually get him back in 3 days." I hesitated. "Does he have dementia? Is that why he wanders?" "No, he's fine. We've had him checked multiple times. He just likes to walk in the woods. He's been doing it for 2 years now. Doesn't that worry you?" She shrugged. "Only if I had to stop him. Then we'd have a problem." I held out a hand. "Charley, by the way, guess I saved you a trip." She shook it. "Safi, Micah's my grandfather. Thanks for bringing him home." "Wait, did I already say that?" She grinned. "Anyway, come on in, hot coffee or cold beer. Your choice." Micah had already disappeared inside. Presumably to shower and change. I followed Safi inside, and we talked until Micah returned, clean-shaven and fresh. She made lunch, my first real sit-down meal at a table in months. It felt good. Normal after lunch, Micah wandered off again, and Safi gave me a tour of the property's 640 acres, mostly rugged and wooded. Not much use for farming, but beautiful beyond words. We got along well. Maybe a little too well. Before I knew it, I had agreed to stay for supper. Then, for the night. Then, a month later, I was still there. Winter had settled in, and Micah, no fan of snow, spent his days carving canes from wood he found on their land. Each one was unique, with intricate designs and carefully crafted handles. I spent hours walking with him through the forest, helping him find just the right pieces. The road could wait as Micah and I scavenged the land. Something caught my eye: the sheer number of cottonwood trees scattered throughout the property. I knew that cottonwood bark carving had become quite popular, but Micah had no interest in anything other than his canes. Safi, on the other hand, kept herself busy writing romance novels. And she was good at it. She had over 35 bodice ripper e-books listed on Amazon and a few other sites. Her books were cheap, but she sold a lot of them. A loyal fan base ensured that every new release was an instant hit. I earned my keep by tackling the long overdue maintenance around the house and outbuildings, an ongoing project with no end in sight. The previous owners had kept horses, so there was a full-sized barn out back. Since neither Micah nor Safi had any interest in horses, it stood empty. I moved the Ryaltha inside, parking it next to a utility vehicle that looked like it had never been used. Half a day's work got the ATV running again, and an idea started forming in my mind. But first, I needed to talk to Safi. "Oh, I just wanted to borrow the ATV," I answered. "Well, that's a big letdown. I was hoping for more." She was smiling. "Do you want a beer?" Micah was sitting in front of the fireplace, carving. Safi had a chair set up with a canvas tarp under it to catch the chips. In the summer, she made him sit on the porch to carve. "Now, what do you need the ATV for?" she asked. I spent the next hour explaining my plan to her. I had 3 distributors set up who were willing to buy all the cottonwood bark that I could provide at wholesale prices. There was more available wood on the property than we would ever need. We would be harvesting the bark only from dead trees, and there were enough on the acreage to keep us busy for many, many years. The only problem that we had was shipping. There was just no practical, cost-effective way to ship the bark. Safi gave me her blessing to do whatever I wanted to do. She even agreed to let Micah help me. Micah was excited to have something to occupy his time. The shipping problem was on hold after the cold weather passed. Micah and I had some nice, crisp days to start our little project. We decided to do the trees that were easily accessible first. The biggest problem was having to make so many trips back to the barn. The utility cart did not have that big a capacity. Micah was more than happy to be the designated driver. Luckily, the barn was big enough to store all that we could collect. As the barn got fuller, we cut back on our gathering. Micah and I were both sleeping well one evening. After Micah turned in, Safi and I sat in front of the fireplace, drinking wine and making popcorn. "I am sorry about what happened between you and your wife. You overheard?" I asked. "Yes, I couldn't help it. I think I understand, but I don't want to intrude on your privacy. That's okay, she cheated, and I left, not much else to it, but now that that is out in the open, what is your story? Tell me what a beautiful, vibrant, young Jewish girl is doing hiding in Wyoming. Wow, you missed 3 out of 4 there. I am not beautiful, I am not vibrant, and I am not hiding. I am Jewish. However, if that matters, you are avoiding my question. I've answered, she sighed. My husband cheated on me, and he got himself murdered. Got himself murdered? What the hell does that mean? I questioned. She leaned over and whispered in my ear. Micah killed the jerk. I was sure I heard her giggle a bit. Now I knew why they were in Wyoming. Micah was in hiding, and she was just taking care of him. Nice setup. We never did figure out a good way to ship the barkwood. I never made any attempts to sell the wood other than the initial contacts I had made with a few distributors. I sort of just forgot about it. However, Micah and I had gotten into a routine of harvesting it. It was therapeutic for both of us. One day, after a long day of clearing access trails, we were surprised to find the barn empty when we got back. Sophie was smiling as we dragged ourselves up onto the porch. She had some beer ready, although it was cool enough for coffee. What happened? I asked. She was still smiling. 2 guys from Smoky Mountain Timber got here right after you left this morning with a truck. I showed them what was in the barn, and they wrote me a check for $4,800, and they had it loaded and were gone before noon. I didn't know how much it was worth. I hope I did all right. Micah and I high-fived each other. It seemed odd doing it with a 70-year-old man from New Jersey. Sophie took that to mean everything was okay. As far as I was concerned, it was found money. It was a good day. Now we had to fill the barn again. It was time to check in with my daughters. Hi, Rosie, it's your dad. Just thought I would check in to see how everything was going. Not well, I'm afraid. Dina is here, so let me put the phone on speaker. How bad is not well? I asked. Mom is in jail. Okay, I am all ears, I answered. She shot him 5 times. Was he dead? I asked. No, she used your old .22 revolver with hollow point bullets. She shot him 5 times. Just below the navel. It didn't kill him, but it sure did mess up his plumbing. It held 6 bullets, I answered. Yeah, that's the funny thing. After she shot him, she called 911, and while she was on the phone, she intentionally shot herself in the foot. I never expected the call I got that evening. Dad, Dina and I are going to see Mom this weekend. We need to get this straightened out. Okay, I replied, still reeling from what I had just told them. Can I call you back at this number? No, it belongs to a friend. I'm going to block your number after we hang up. I'll call you in a month or so. And that was it. I didn't know it, but Sophie had been standing nearby and had heard everything. That night, after Micah turned in, we sat by the fireplace, drinking wine and making popcorn. I'm sorry about what happened between you and your wife, she said. You overheard. Yes, I couldn't help it. It's fine, she cheated, and I left, not much else to it. But now that that's out in the open, what's your story? What is a beautiful, vibrant young Jewish woman doing hiding in Wyoming? She smirked. Wow, you missed 3 out of 4. I'm not beautiful, I'm not vibrant, and I'm not hiding. I am Jewish, though, if that matters. You're avoiding my question, she sighed. My husband cheated on me, and then he got himself murdered. Got himself murdered? What the hell does that mean? She leaned in and whispered. Micah killed the jerk. I swore I heard her giggle. Now I knew why they were in Wyoming. Micah was in hiding, and she was protecting him. Nice setup. Time passed. Life settled down. Sophie kept writing, and Micah and I got back to harvesting barkwood. And then one day, I got the talk from Micah. Charley, my good friend, you are not carrying your share of the load. What are you talking about, old man? I do twice the work you do. I'm not talking about that, he said. I mean at the lodge. Sophie takes care of everything. When I try to help, she pushes me away. That's not what I mean either. Damn it, Charley. She's a grown woman. She needs strong arms and a warm body. You are the only candidate for the job. It's time to step up and be a man. You want me to sleep with your granddaughter? Of course not, you idiot. She's waiting for you to make the first move. I hesitated. What if she turns me down? I don't want to mess this up. She won't turn you down. Enough said. Let's get back to work. Micah was right, of course. There was no grand confession, no heartfelt conversation. That night, Sophie and I just excused ourselves and went to her room. I moved in the next morning. Micah was smiling for a week. Life was good. Then, one afternoon we saw them. A state police car and two black sedans parked in front of the lodge. Sophie was outside, waving her arms and stomping her feet as she argued with them. I thought it was serious. "Micah?" He laughed. "Micah," I whispered. "Remember where we first met?" He smiled and nodded. "Meet me there in 2 days." He disappeared over the hill with our snacks and water. I went down and played the dim-witted hired hand. The cops were looking for Micah. Turns out Sophie's ex-husband had been someone of importance. They had finally traced Micah to the lodge. They grilled Sophie for hours, but they weren't interested in me. That was a relief. Eventually, they left unhappy that evening. Sophie and I sat in silence. "You and Micah have something arranged, don't you?" she finally asked. I just smiled. "Do you have his passport?" I asked. She smirked, left the room, and returned with an Israeli passport and an envelope filled with cash. Micah was exactly where he was supposed to be 2 days later. Hungry and a bit chilled, but in good spirits. 15 hours later, I dropped him off at Regina International Airport. I never saw him again. It all started when I got a phone call from my kids. They were skeptical at first, but I told them the truth. Their mother had cheated on me. I had proof. Her old boyfriend, John Bell, had called me from her phone while she was in his shower. I confronted her, and she just walked away. That was when I packed up and left my daughters, Rosie and Dina, planned to talk to her and sort everything out. Then things escalated in a way none of us expected. 2 days later, she was arrested. Turns out, after her affair, she shot the guy 5 times with my old .22 revolver. And if that wasn't wild enough, while she was on the phone with 911, she intentionally shot herself in the foot, just so she'd have something to remember it by. At this point, my daughters told me to stay put. She was out on bail soon after, but she wasn't ready to see me or anyone, really. Then I got another bombshell. She was filing for divorce. Not because she wanted to move on, but because she assumed I wouldn't. She wasn't wrong. I had no plans of filing myself, so she took the initiative. Shortly after, the bank repossessed the house. Life went on while all this was happening. I was staying at a remote lodge, working with Micah, an older guy who became something of a mentor. His granddaughter, Sophie, was there too. She had her own past. Her husband had cheated on her too. The difference? He ended up murdered. By who? Micah. Turns out the old man had been protecting her, and now they were laying low in Wyoming. One day, while we were out working, we saw a state police car and 2 black sedans at the lodge. They weren't after me, but they were looking for Micah. Turns out, Sophie's ex-husband had been someone important, and the law had finally caught up. I helped Micah slip away into hiding, then played dumb when the officers grilled us for answers. Sophie was relieved I didn't bring him back the next morning. I met up with Micah at our pre-arranged spot. He was cold and hungry, but in good spirits. Sophie handed me an envelope with $10,000 and in his Israeli passport. 15 hours later, I dropped him off at Regina International Airport, where he disappeared into the crowd back at the lodge. Life continued. Then I got another update from my daughters. Viola, my ex, was serving 5 to 8 years in Muncie. Some prison advocacy group had helped her fast-track the divorce, and I was officially a free man. And here's the real twist. Micah refused to return to Wyoming for our wedding, so Sophie and I got married in Haifa instead. As a wedding gift, he gave us the ranch, so yeah, life took some turns I never saw coming. Was it what you expected, or did this story go somewhere completely different than you thought?